Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5am Club. I'm just going on a bit of a walk today in my local government area, LGA. It's still locked down and I'm in the one of the restricted areas at the moment, so I can't go outside. So I thought I'd do a walk and talk today and do a book summary and see what we can learn and what we can glean from this beautiful bushland that we have in the suburbs around Sydney. Today's book summary is entitled How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie, and it was a book written in 1948, so it's been around for a while, but interestingly enough, the lessons from this book are really powerful and very useful. And here we have Mummy Duck, Daddy Duck and a lot of little ducks just down by the creek here at Cumberland Creek. I don't know what sort of ducks these are. They look like, I think it's wood ducks or teal. But I've got the parent here just trying to scare me away. But there are two parents and two, 4 and 6 ducklings who seem to have grown up, and they'll make it. They will definitely make it. So what have we got to learn here today? So the first key point to come out of this book is that we need to make sure that we don't upset ourselves with small things. One of the key learnings from Dale Carnegie in this book is let's not allow ourselves to be upset by small things. We should despise and forget the small things and remember that life is too short to be little. I like that. Life is too short to be little. So don't focus on small things, else you'll be just wasting your life and wasting the years. And the first key point to come out of this book is the best way to change others is to change yourself. Don't waste your time trying to change other people, because as Dale said back in 1948, and I've been a parent and a grandparent, I've been married for almost 40 years, the best way to change your environment or to change your world is to change yourself. And I had a manager many years ago, his name was Greg Gleason, who always said to me, he says, James, if you want your world to change yourself. And I guess those were very valuable lessons from back then, and they hold true today. And no doubt he got that saying from Dale Carnegie. So what's the first point that Dale Carnegie tries to teach us and to inspire us with? He says that in our lives we need to clear confusion, and he has a 3-step process that will help eliminate confusion and the worries that it causes. So clarity is very important, according to Dale Carnegie, where he says that by eliminating confusion, then what you're doing is you're eliminating worry in your lives. So I'll just follow these ducks down because they are pretty interesting. So what Dale Carnegie says in his book here is that worry makes things worse and not better. And we've all learnt that. We all learn that in our lives, that worry just makes things worse. I remember back in the days when I worked at IBM, my then boss, Ray Smith, got a call that his son had fallen over and hit his head at school and was rendered unconscious and was being taken to the hospital by the ambulance. And I remember seeing Ray being so cool, calm and collected. And I was wondering, what was going on. And I said, Ray, aren't you worried? Aren't you worried about your son? And he said to me, and he was a Mormon, so he was a practicing Mormon, so he had a very spiritual sort of background. And he said, James, look, worry is not going to do anything. It's not going to make it better. It's not going to make it different. All it's going to do is make me distracted, and I won't be able to think clearly and make the right decisions. So the best thing to do is just to detach and to not worry about things that we can't change at this point in time. So Dale Carnegie says, once again, the same thing, that worry just makes things worse. In order to fix things that worry us, we need to find the cause. And once you find the cause and you can do something about that cause, then that will help fix things. So one of the biggest causes of worry, as Dale says, is that confusion. He's being confused, not knowing what to do next. So for leaders, for people who want to be of value to their teams, they need to try and clarify the situation, clarify what's going on, because it's through clarity comes power. So one of the biggest causes of worry is confusion. What's next? So to sort it out, according to Dale Carnegie in his 3-step process, is that the first thing you need to get your facts. So rather than worry, rather than carry on, rather than be a pain, the author here says you need to get your facts straight first. What do I know? And based on what I know, what am I worried about? So that's step number 1, according to Dale Carnegie. Get your facts straight first. So a very powerful lesson for everybody. So if you're worried, if you're confused, step back and ask yourself the one question. What do I know? And what am I worried about? The second point, according to Dale Carnegie, is that you need to decide to analyze the facts. What facts do I have? And once you have facts, and they've got to be the right facts. I think what we've learnt recently with COVID-19 is that there are a lot of different facts available to people, and depending on the facts or the misinformation or the disinformation that you've been fed, you will make decisions accordingly. So get your facts first. Secondly, make sure that the facts that you have are accurate and correct facts. And what you do is you take your facts and you analyse them and you create options. It's important to be able to use those facts to create options. And the third thing is that you need to decide and weigh up the options and decide what you're going to do first. And once you've made that decision, you just stick with it. So that's what Dale Carnegie is telling us or teaching us. So it's important to use your common sense to disarm your worries, according to Dale. Anyway, I'll leave these ducks be. I've been with them too long for now. But as you can see, it's a beautiful, beautiful little creek here, the Cumberland Creek. And I'll come down here one day when it's rained and the water is moving. And as I say, I could imagine years ago when the first settlers were moving into these areas here, they would have been coming down here to swim, to maybe fish, to hunt, who knows. But it's beautiful, a beautiful part of Sydney. So what's the next thing we can learn from this book from Dale Carnegie? The next thing that he talks about, and it's something which interests me as well, I've spoken to my stockbroker about this. What Dale says is that we need to put a stop loss on things in our life that causes stress, grief and anxiety. A stop loss. So what we need to do is to learn to say no, or when we've had enough of something. So what Dale Carnegie is saying here is that, and he uses a term called a stop loss. I buy shares and that they lose 5%, and I hold on to them and they go down 10% and 20%, and sometimes they might be down 40 or 50%. So you need to make a decision at some point in time. Do I hold on to these, or do I get rid of them and get into something else which is a better chance of moving forward? And what Dale is saying is that we need to make the same sort of decisions in our lives. Just because you're invested in a relationship, just because you're invested in a particular situation or a job, doesn't mean that you have to stick to it, even though it's not working for you and it's not benefiting you in the long term. So at some point in time, we need to weigh up our options and decide whether or not we want to stick with it or cut our losses. And this is where Dale says putting a stop loss on things that are causing us grief is an important and powerful thing to consider, at least in our lives. He says that we shouldn't be wasting our time on things just waiting for them to come to fruition, because some things will never come to fruition. Doesn't matter how long you wait. But by the same token, I've also experienced, getting out of something or stopping something, and then the very next week, the very next day, the very next hour, they turn around and improve, and you just kick yourself saying, if only I stuck to it for another day or two, it would have been a big difference. But we need to try and figure out in our heads and be able to make a decision, as we said, and stick to it, rather than to sit back and just hope that things one day get better. So what the author is saying is that this all has to happen in advance. And I've learnt this as well, because I'll chat with my broker and we'll say, what sort of price shall we sell at if it goes up? What sort of target price based on the charting should we look at getting out at, and vice versa on the charting. If it falls to a certain point and there's a wind draft below a certain price point, then we need to get out before the thing just collapses altogether. But this all needs to be, according to the author, premeditated. You need to be thinking about these sorts of things in advance and decide what your limit is going to be and at what point. And once you hit that limit, then you decide, do I pull the trigger or do I not pull the trigger, based on the information that you have at that point in time. So we need to stop worrying about things you can't change or influence. It's a good point, of course. And to forgive and don't hold on to things, because once again what we learn is it's just not worth it. Make a decision, stick to it, and never look back. One thing I do with my broker when I do my trades is I'll never go back and look at a share that I've traded out of for fear of just worrying that I made the wrong decision, and it just spoils all the other decisions and all the other things that you do. So the third point to come out of this book from Dale Carnegie is how we deal with criticism. He says that we shouldn't be negative to criticism. What we should do is treat all criticism, positive and negative, as a compliment, instead of obsessing about the negative feedback. What we're saying here is that if somebody takes the time to attack you, if somebody takes the time to say something negative, it's not a reason for you to feel negative about it. because the fact that somebody's commented on something that you're doing, even if it's negative, means that you've triggered a reaction, a response. But you don't have to take all the negative criticism. What the author here is saying, what Dale is saying, is that all criticism is feedback. And what we need to do is we know that feedback is a key to growth, but not all criticism is constructive or productive. It's up to us. It's up to each and every one of us to assess the criticism and determine whether or not we want to take it on board. We can use it to grow, develop, and become better at what we do, or we can just ignore it. You have the right to ignore criticism. You don't have to take it on board. But as the author here says, welcome, embrace, and take on board all criticism, and then think about it. Now use your own critical thinking skills based on your goals, what you're trying to achieve, what you can see, what the facts that you have available to you, and then you can either discount that criticism, saying, well, look, I've considered it, but it doesn't apply, I don't want it to apply, I don't think it applies, and just keep on going, or else at least it's got you thinking. Do they have a point? Do they know what they're talking about? Am I about to be ambushed by something that I don't see, something that I don't understand, something that I don't appreciate? Because you've got to understand that everybody has experiences, because we all just see a slither of reality, of truth, of our lives. No person knows everything about everything. But we've all got slithers, we've all got experiences that shape our worldview. Some people's experiences may be wrong. It may not apply to what you're doing. They may have irrational fears. They may have inherited fears from their families, their friends, their environment, which don't apply. But at least take some time to think about it. Take some time to absorb it, appreciate it. And once you've decided, then you've decided. But don't sit and let it rule you. As we said, use it to your benefit. Because at the end of the day, as Dale Carnegie says, we only critique those who we envy. People who we don't envy, we don't really care about. We don't care if they're alive, they're dead, they're healthy, they're sick. It's just the way human nature is. The only people you critique or you worry about are the people who you value, I guess is the best way of describing it. So don't take it personally is Dale's key point. And take it on board and think about it, balance it, and just move on. And I guess that's it. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's the third one that I've done this morning. I'm on a 2-hour bushwalk, so I thought I'd crank out a few 5am clubs whilst I'm walking and just passing my time. And this book here from Dale Carnegie, I remember reading it years ago. I remember reading his other book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I was just amazed how timeless the advice is. 60, 70 years have passed, and his writings and his lessons and his focus and his observations on human behaviour are pretty well spot on. Nothing much has changed. Human behaviour is human behaviour. And once again, another wonderful book, which I really appreciated reading and enjoyed even more delivering, because as I say, I'm just an emissary, just passing on the knowledge that I've gained by reading a book summary, and hopefully we can take 2 or 3 of those points and incorporate them into our lives so that we're all better off. Anyway, take care and we'll chat again. Bye for now.